Well, Alberta's provincial election will take place on May 29th, and today we're speaking with Rob Miyashiro, former Lethbridge City Councillor and the NDP candidate for Lethbridge-East. Rob, welcome to Bridge City News. So great to have you on today.
Thanks, Nev. Glad to be here.
Okay, wonderful. So you've been a longtime resident of Lethbridge, working with seniors and sitting on council. So can you tell us a bit about yourself and why you decided to take this plunge into provincial politics?
So it's interestingly, so I've been living in Lethbridge a long time. I was born in Lethbridge, grew up in Taber, raised in Taber, I guess I could say. I've worked as a human services professional for a long time, mostly with not-for-profits, but a couple stints in government and also on the Blood Reserve. My driving passion is, I think, to help people. It's kind of what I've been doing for my whole career. The reason I'm running now, so I had decided I was going to quit city council. Or not run again, so we're in 2021. And one day we were watching the news and our provincial government was doing something kind of offbeat that they were doing at that time. And my wife literally turned to me and said, out of the blue, if you're going to do anything politically ever again, you need to run for the NDP. At which time, seriously, I had not thought of that. And I gave it some thought, talked to some people, and here I am.
Here you are. Okay. So, Rob, what feedback have you received the most about the needs of the residents of Lethbridge-East?
You know, in Lethbridge-East, it's varied, right? Because we have such a varied economy and we have a lot of different interest groups. So we have crisis issues that people tend to focus on a lot, but not work towards solutions. Housing and homelessness are some issues that need solutions. We don't just need to keep dealing with the symptoms. We need to actually deal with what the problem is, right? So healthcare is a huge one, right? That's the biggest one. Healthcare, you know, the Alberta NDP really believes that every Albertan deserves the proper healthcare and deserves the healthcare that they need when they need it. Right, so we're in a position where many of us have lost physicians and don't have a doctor. We have a third or more of our population doesn't have a family doctor. And I was in that position at one time a year and a half ago, and literally I would have been dead if I didn't have gotten to the doctor. Could have been that week because it diagnosed something that I had no idea, and so I've been fine since then. But if I hadn't had a doctor, and that's the problem that we're with that the Alberta NDP wants to address is let's fix the healthcare crisis. Let's have a way and get our plan is to have 1 million more Albertans have access to a family doctor in the next while. And that's our goal. And it's a lofty goal, but it's something we're going to accomplish, you know, with things like our family health teams and supporting communities to develop family health clinics where you can have a general practitioner and other specialists as a team with allied health professionals to help serve more people, so they always don't have to see a doctor, but the doctor's available if you need it. Those are novel approaches, so you don't always. So we're focused on healthcare and the health of people, and to get Albertans the care that they need.
Yeah, definitely healthcare is one of the issues that's tops of mind. It's the top of mind amongst Albertans everywhere. You know, I myself don't have a family doctor anymore as well, so I totally understand that. Now, the NDP has promised to create the family health clinics and expand the hours of medical clinics, as you mentioned there. So can you give us more details about what that would look like?
Yeah, so it's conceptually, it's as I kind of mentioned before, we want to help support the development of family health clinics so that you center the work around the patient. You center the work around what the person needs. So if you need to see a GP and you go in and they diagnose something and you get treated, maybe the next time you go there, you need to see a respiratory tech, or you need to see someone that's an allied professional that can certainly help and move that patient's care along, but they don't always have to see the family doctor. Even though the family doctor is part of the team, they're not always the one you need to see when you're getting support, right? So as I said before, we want to make sure that 1 million more Albertans are going to have access to a family doctor.
Wow, it's a tall order. So there seems to be a shortage of healthcare professionals throughout North America. So where would you find the additional medical personnel to operate these facilities?
That also combined with our goals on post-secondary education. So you're right. How are we going to find these allied professionals and health professionals? Well, you have to train them, and we're going to have to train them in Alberta. Well, first, obviously, there's going to be a recruitment strategy released right away by our leader this week or early next week about what our recruitment strategy is for healthcare, right? But furthermore to that is to have a sustainable system. You need us to train health professionals in Alberta, then have them stay in Alberta. We don't want to train them here and have them move somewhere else. We have a college university in Lethbridge that we need to fund spaces and fund the instructors to make sure we can train those people here in Lethbridge. Because, and this ties into a whole bunch of other things, because obviously you know that, and people in Lethbridge know, the college university are two of our biggest employers. So we add spaces for students. We employ more people, we train more people, we have health professionals that can stay in our community and serve our community. And if not our immediate community, they'll stay in Alberta, hopefully, right? And so all those things tie together. And that's how big an economic driver healthcare is in our educational system as well, right? We need to make sure that we're funding our college and university to the levels that they were at before the UCP cut a bunch of their funding, tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up the post-secondary thing because I was going to ask you any ideas on how to entice more local students to go into medicine so that something like this doesn't happen again.
Well, I think that's something that starts when the students are in school, and I also think you just step kind of into another thing about having a curriculum that deals with real life issues, a curriculum that's going to serve the kids for their future as well, and not ideological based and based on here's the way life works. If we can get kids interested in STEM. Science, technology, engineering, medical things early enough, and have a pathway. So having the UCP rip up the doctor's contract at the onset of the pandemic, have all these doctors leave the practice for whatever reason or leave the province, that's not going to give an incentive to students in high school to say, hey, I'd love to pursue a medical education. But if we have some kind of way to connect kids with being a healthcare professional early on and have the resources to educate them and then have jobs available for them after, that's what's going to create sustainability in not just our healthcare system, but also our education system.
Now, Rob, in your mind, is there something that AHS and the government can do to make work better for those frontline workers? I know that they're always working so short-staffed, and I know just recently they had an information picket outside the provincial buildings throughout Alberta. Any ideas there?
It's all part of them feeling supported too. We need a government like the Alberta NDP that's not going to fight with healthcare professionals, right? We need a government that's going to actually support healthcare professionals to do the job, and so that they know they're supported, that they know that they're appreciated by their government to support them in whatever way that means. That means proper equipment, that means proper staffing, that means proper supervision, that means a sound strategy for a healthcare system, so that the frontline people they can see a good picture of where their system's going, and they don't feel discouraged, and they know someone's got their back. But we're the kind of government that will be a government that has the back of healthcare workers across the province.
Okay, switching gears a little bit here. If there were another pandemic situation in the future, how would an NDP government handle something like that? Would there be more lockdowns, more mandatory vaccinations?
I think the focus though, Jeanette, is on stability in the healthcare system, right? So if you have a fully functioning healthcare system where staff are feeling supported, there's some forward strategizing being done. There's some understanding of what can happen in the world and a way to react positively to things that are happening in the world. You base your system on the best science available and the best experts available. That helps you to obviously no one could have prepared 100% for the pandemic we just went through. But if we there were lessons we learned from the influenza pandemic in the early 1900s. And you know what? Those are some lessons that were learned and tried to implement in the COVID-19 pandemic. So I think we learn from what's worked, and we move ahead and do the best practices. I can't predict, and I don't think anyone that's working in government right now can say this is what we're going to do. I think you can model different ways to deal with things, but you just have to be prepared, and you have to have a system that's ready to absorb that kind of crisis. And so you're not putting the system in crisis when the rest of the world's in crisis.
Yeah. Okay, another top of mind issue amongst Albertans everywhere, inflation. So that seems to always be a beast that needs to be slain. So what are your thoughts on how to deal with inflation and to create an economy that will provide job opportunities for Albertans?
It comes down to affordability things. So inflation it's affected by so many things: supply chain, global price markets. What we can do in Alberta is look at how do we make things more affordable for families and for people, right? So we don't want to increase the provincial income tax. Do we have enough money and can we have a stable economy and stable budget revenue source by doing that? Can we look at things like how do we make insurance more affordable, auto insurance, house insurance? How do we work with municipalities so that we're not taking important revenue streams from municipalities so that they have to increase property taxes? People don't understand that when provincial governments take money from municipalities don't have the ability to have cost overruns. They don't have the ability to go into deficit. That's by law. So the only way they can do it is increase property taxes. If you're in provincial government like ours, you're going to work with the municipalities to make sure we're not creating those affordable issues for our people that live in Alberta. We want to make sure that everything that we're doing. One big thing is things like AISH and child benefits and Alberta senior benefits. Those during the UCP government were de-indexed to inflation. And all of a sudden, inflation goes up, as you were talking about. So all of a sudden, the buying power of someone that's making X dollars is that much less. And what we want to do is make sure we re-index those kind of things, right? And keep making sure that as inflation goes up, the most minimalized and marginalized in our population are looked after, as well as the middle class that has huge affordability issues.
Okay, well, last time your leader was Premier Rachel Notley, the province did go into a multi-million-dollar budget deficit. So that trend, obviously, it sounds like you're trying to work away from that trend under the NDP government. So do you believe that would change through what you're sort of proposing there?
Right. Well, it's interesting because you also have to look at other factors in the economy, right? And people need to understand it's not everything in the province that affects our economy. It's global marketplace, just as I said about inflation. It's how do we make it better for Albertans? So what we need to do is we need to create, unlike the UCP government that gave billions of dollars of taxpayers' money to oil companies. They gave them to oil companies for whatever incentive they were going to give them. The companies took that money, moved their head offices out of Alberta. That was $4 billion, I think, that we'll never get back. We'll never see again. $4 billion and now would have made a big difference in service and supports to everybody else. We're also looking at diversifying the economy and leveraging our energy sector to create products and goods and services in a different kind of way. How do we use our bitumen in a different way? We have a strong legacy in energy in Alberta. We've always been an energy leader, right? So and we have our legacy in oil and gas is beyond compared to any other province. So what we need to do is continue that kind of legacy as an energy leader and look at not just oil and gas, but continue to support the oil and gas industry, but also look at how we're going to pivot to supporting agriculture. Oil and gas. So people in Lethbridge in southern Alberta certainly are concerned about our economy and how we're going to pay for things, and how that's going to pay for the government. However, in Southern Alberta, you know, Jeanette, that we're the center of agriculture and ag processing in Alberta. Well, in Western Canada, right? We have what's been known as the Canada's agriculture processing corridor in Southern Alberta. More processing facilities and more agriculture per capita than anywhere else in Canada. And we need to make sure in Southern Alberta and Lethbridge that we're continuing to support the agriculture industry to do the things that they need to do to feed Albertans and beyond, because that's what drives our economy here as much as, well, more than anything else.
Thanks so much for being with us today, Rob.
Thanks, Jeanette. Always a pleasure to talk to you.